So, what if I told you that everything around you, the chair you're sitting on, the air you're breathing, even you, isn't really made of matter or energy? What if, at its core, it's all just information? It's a truly wild idea, and today we're going to dive into it thanks to the legendary physicist John Archibald Wheeler. This right here, this quote is where it all begins. Wheeler's big idea was that at the very, very bottom of reality, you don't find tiny particles or little vibrating strings. No, you find simple, binary, yes or no answers. Every single physical thing, what he calls an it all bubbles up from these fundamental bits of information. This is a complete radical reimagining of, well, everything. So, to put it as simply as we can, it from bit is the theory that the physical world, all the its, literally emerges from information, from all the bits. And where does this information come from? Well, it lives inside those bizarre, fuzzy quantum events. You know, the act of measuring a quantum particle forces it to give a yes or no answer. And that act of measurement, that very question, might be what actually creates a tiny piece of reality. Now, Wheeler didn't just throw this idea out there and leave it at that. Oh no. He framed his whole approach as a kind of grand quest for understanding, and it was all guided by three of the biggest, most fundamental questions you could ever ask. First up, and this is the big one, how come existence? And he wasn't just talking about the Big Bang. He meant, why is there anything at all, instead of just an empty void? Why is there a something rather than a nothing? Wheeler's hunch was that the answer wasn't buried in traditional physics. He thought it was tied to the very act of us being here to observe it in the first place. The second question is, how come the quantum? I mean, why are the rules of the universe so deeply weird when you zoom all the way in? Why does a particle just float around in a cloud of every possibility until we look at it? Wheeler's really out there idea was that this isn't just some strange quirk. It is the mechanism. It's how reality gets built, bit by bit. And that leads to the final puzzle. If our observations are so important, how do all of us, billions of what he called observer participants, all manage to see the same shared solid reality? You know, how does my it that comes from my bit perfectly match up with your it that comes from your bit? How does this single, unified world emerge from all of us? Okay, but here's what's so smart about Wheeler's approach. Before he even really tried to find the answers, he first mapped out all the intellectual traps. He basically put up warning signs for us, showing us all the tempting ideas that feel right but are actually dead ends. He called these his 4 big no's, and you should really think of them as giant do not enter signs on the path to understanding reality. These are the seductive, easy answers that we have to throw out completely before we can even begin to make progress. So, what are these traps? First, he said no Tower of Turtles. You know, that old story where the world rests on a turtle, which rests on another turtle, on and on forever? He's saying that can't be right. There can't be an endless chain of explanations. At some point, you have to hit the bottom floor. Second, no laws. Now, this is a weird one. We imagine the laws of physics are eternal, set in stone since the beginning of time. Wheeler suggested, what if they're not? What if the laws actually grew up and evolved right alongside the universe? Third, no continuum. We see the world as smooth and continuous, right? But he argued that deep down, reality might be pixelated, made of distinct individual units, kind of like the pixels on your screen. And finally, the biggest mind-bender of all, no space or time. He said we have to stop assuming that space and time are the fundamental stage where everything happens. What if they aren't fundamental at all? What if they're just an illusion, something that emerges from the information itself? All right, so if those are all the traps, where's the actual treasure map? Well, Wheeler gave us that too. He left us with 5 huge clues. 5 really powerful ideas that he believed would point us in the right direction, guiding us straight to the informational heart of reality. So let's walk through the clues. Clue number 1, the boundary of a boundary is 0. It's a deep idea for mathematics, but the gist is that the universe is probably a completely self-contained system. It doesn't need anything outside of itself to exist. It just is. Clue 2, no question, no answer. This is pure quantum mechanics. Reality is not just sitting there, fully formed. It only becomes definite when a question is asked, when a measurement is made. Until then, it's just a maybe. Clue 3 is the super Copernican principle. Copernicus showed us we're not the center of the solar system. Well, this principle suggests our laws of physics might not be the center of everything either. They might just be the particular set of rules that happen to emerge in our corner of reality. Clue 4 is simply the word consciousness, but notice it's in quotation marks. He wasn't talking about human awareness. He meant some fundamental ability of the universe to register information about itself, to kind of observe itself. And finally, clue number 5, more is different. This is the beautiful idea that from incredibly simple binary rules, yes or no, on or off, you can get astounding complexity, things like galaxies and life. You just need a whole lot of those simple bits. So when you put it all together, what does it all mean? Well, Wheeler didn't give us the final answer on a silver platter. Instead, he gave us something way more useful, a whole new toolkit for thinking about the problem. He gave us the right questions to ask, the wrong assumptions to avoid, and a few really good clues to follow. It's basically a roadmap for a revolution in physics. And all of this leaves us with one last, absolutely staggering thought to chew on. If the universe really is built from bits of information, and if those bits are brought into reality by the act of asking a yes or no question, then the biggest mystery of all isn't what the universe is made of. The real mystery is who or what is asking the questions.